Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 12 of Darkness and Light. I'm your host, Wendy Rule, and this is a podcast about myth, magic, and nature. As this episode lands, we are in Virgo season, the sun moving through the sign of Virgo. And it also happens to be the full moon, the first episode to land on the actual full moon. And that full moon is in the sign of Pisces, which is half a circle away from Virgo. And that's how the full moon always works. The full moon is always going to be in the opposite sign than the sun. And because of that, this means that the full moon will always be rising around sunset and setting around sunrise. So yeah, it feels extra magical, this episode, to land right on the full moon. So if you are listening to this as soon as the episode is released, happy full moon. And if you're listening sometime after that, we can still tap into this energy of the moon that continues to move through her cycles. She'll be back to the Pisces full moon a year from now, back to the next full moon a month from now, always changing, always moving. So no matter when you tune in, I hope that you can find something of relevance in each episode. And under the light of this Pisces full moon, we're going to dive into that oceanic Piscean energy with the Greek god Poseidon as our guide. At the end of the last episode, I mentioned that we'd be journeying with both Poseidon and Dionysus, but as soon as I began to research this episode and write down all my thoughts and feelings about this powerful god and this beautiful mutable water sign of Pisces, I realized that there really wasn't much room to dive into Dionysus as well. He's a god who definitely deserves his own episode. So Poseidon it is for this episode. And I want to clarify too, which I did early on in, I think, my very first episode, that although my heart connects with the Greek gods, I'm not a Hellenist. I'm not a recreator of ancient Greek magical and ritual practice. There are other people who are doing that work and bringing ancient ritual back to life. And that's wonderful, but that's not my path. For me, I'm interested in how these gods can transcend cultural boundaries and can turn up in our lives at this point in a different way than they may have thousands of years ago in ancient Greece. My relationship with these ancient deities is always contemporary. They're speaking to me through the lens of now, 2026, from right here where I live in New Mexico or wherever I happen to be traveling. It's an evolving relationship. And I do think that these gods in this pantheon that I love so much and connect with for some reason really deeply, that they turn up for me and maybe for you in countless different ways. For example, in my upcoming Australian tour, I'm running a workshop called Artemis of the Eucalyptus, which is the title of one of my very, very early songs. I wrote that song after connecting with Artemis, feeling her energy in the Australian forest and realizing, oh, okay, these gods are not necessarily confined to a geographical location or even to an era. We can journey with them right here, right now, and be creating our own rituals that are relevant to us now as we honor them. So with that in mind, I'd love to connect with Poseidon this episode and let his energy be a gateway for us to understand and integrate the beautiful energy of Pisces. Pisces is a water sign, and it is mutable water, water that wants to change, water that moves from one state to another. Water is naturally changeable. It can be liquid, it can be gas, it can be solid. It has a shape-shifting quality. It changes under different lights. It takes on the shape of the container that holds it. It flows around obstacles. It receives and reflects. Water transforms. It carves out canyons, erodes sea cliffs. So mutable water feels like a very natural state. The other two water signs, Cancer, which is cardinal water, and Scorpio, which is fixed water, carry a different, unique watery quality, that Scorpio energy of going deep, 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 just like water finds the low ground. And that Cancerian quality of cardinal water, the water of beginning, the womb where we all began, the great cosmic void. But that Piscean energy, to me, is the ever-changing ocean, the shapeshifter, the unknowable. It is the ocean of endless tides, of rolling waves, of glittering surface, of unknown depths. It is the ocean of dreams and imagination. Pisces connects us with mystical experience dissolving into the collective, merging with the cosmos, awakening a state of ecstasy, of dissolution. It can be overwhelming at times, the enormity of this ever-changing emotion. It can be moody. But when we're willing to dive deep into these Piscean waters, the gifts are endless, opening us to imagination and mystical experience. In modern astrology, Pisces is ruled by the planet Neptune. But Neptune wasn't discovered until 1846. And before then, Pisces' ruler was the planet Jupiter, who's the planet of wisdom and faith and the search for meaning, the planet of spirituality. So I can understand how that sits well with Pisces, but I think Neptune even more so. Neptune is the name of a Roman god. Neptune and Poseidon, the Greek kind of equivalent, have been conflated now, but earlier on, before Roman and Greek cultures were merging, Neptune was a god in his own right, different from Poseidon, a god of water, but not necessarily of the ocean. There were different gods associated with ports and maritime energy, but Neptune was a god of springs and water. And then under the Roman Republic in Greece, the Romans recognized that Poseidon and Neptune overlapped in some ways, and over time, Neptune began to take on many of the characteristics of Poseidon, which we'll explore in a moment. So the planet Neptune really reflects this later version of Neptune that is the god of the sea. And I think that sits very beautifully with this Piscean energy. So Poseidon is a very ancient and very complex god. He's the god of the ocean, of the sea, but he also is known as Earthshaker. He's a god of earthquakes, of what lies beneath the sea. He reflects the energy of the unconscious, of forces that cannot be controlled. He is the brother of Zeus and of Hades, and after the Olympic gods' war with the Titans, the three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, divided up the realms of the sea, the sky, and the underworld between them. And this was sorted out by lot, by chance. Zeus got the sky, Poseidon got the sea, and Hades got the underworld, and between them all they shared the rulership of Earth. So there's a sense that each of these realms is equally powerful. We think of Zeus as being the ruler of the gods, Zeus who is Jupiter to the Romans, but really all of these energies are potent and uncontrollable, powerful. And there's great similarities between Poseidon and Zeus, between Neptune and Jupiter. So I can see how Jupiter fits as a previous ruler of Pisces. Poseidon, this moody god of the ever-changing sea, of earthquakes that can reshape the land. He can bring storms, but he can also calm them. And in a seafaring culture like ancient Greece, Poseidon was a deeply important god. He was a protector of fishermen, protector of ships. His anger or his benevolence could drastically alter the fate of fishermen and therefore of the people of Greece who relied so strongly on the sea. And we see this moody quality of Poseidon in the myth of the Odyssey, where he becomes the enemy of Odysseus and does all he can to hinder his journey back home to Ithaca, finally capsizing his raft and having him washed to shore, naked and alone. And all the cunning and cleverness of Odysseus, all the plotting and planning is useless against the mighty force of the ocean itself, uncontrollable, having to give over to that pure, epic force of nature. I love this poem by Lord Byron, the Romantic poet, and that whole Romantic era of art really coincided with the discovery of Neptune, which I think is really, really interesting. Every time a planet is discovered, it seems to reflect the energy of the time when it was brought to consciousness. So yeah, Neptune coincides with the Romantic Revolution, where there was a recognition and celebration of the enormous power of nature. And after the age of reason, where there was a sense of controlling nature, the Romantics came along and celebrated the enormous and uncontrollable force of nature itself. Here's this poem by Lord Byron, which I have loved for decades and decades. Roll on, thou deep and dark blue ocean, roll. 10,000 fleets sweep over thee in vain. Man marks the earth with ruin. His control stops with the shore. Upon the watery plain, the wrecks are all thy deed, nor doth remain a shadow of man's ravage, save his own, when, for a moment, like a drop of rain, he sinks into thy depths with bubbling groan, without a grave, unknelt, uncoffined, and unknown. I love that section. Man marks the earth with ruin, his control stops with the shore. I wish that were the case now because, of course, There's so much damage done to our beautiful oceans, but nevertheless, there is still that sense of the uncontrollable, the unknowable, and that mutable Piscean energy, mutable water, is like the ocean that touches every shore. There might be on a map a line drawn in the ocean that says this belongs to this country and this belongs to that country, but the ocean doesn't honour that. That water, ever changing, that doesn't honour boundaries. The ocean touches and unites all Earth, every continent. I'll be flying to Australia shortly and standing on the shore of the Pacific Ocean as it laps on the east coast of Australia. But it's that same ocean that is kissing the western shore of America. Those boundaries of countries, even that distance, becomes irrelevant when we remember that we are all connected by these waters of the world. I have always had a great respect for the ocean and, in some ways, a fear as well. I still don't like going out particularly deep when I swim in the ocean. That's very sensible, having grown up in Australia, and there are definitely sharks. But it's the actual power of the ocean, its endless role, its uncontrollable nature, that we can't reason with it. I used to have this series of dreams where if I went to the beach, I'd be dreaming afterwards that the tide would be coming in and trapping me against cliffs. And I would always, whenever I went to the beach, plan an escape route. Like, oh, I'd clamber up that cliff, I'd get out that way if the tide came in and trapped me. But at the same time, I just had to explore those rock pools. When the tide had retreated, I wanted to go and look at that secret world within the rock pools, but knowing that the tide would make its way in and that if I didn't get out in time, I would be trapped, a genuine danger. But that always was apparent to me, that this is something that was way beyond my control. I actually asked my mum once, is there any reason why I might be scared of the ocean? And she said, I don't really think so. Oh, except that time when you were washed out to sea as a baby. And it's like, oh, wow, thanks, Mum. And, supposedly I was sitting in a little rock pool and my sisters were playing on the shore and I was, I don't know, young enough to sit upright, but not to swim. And then she looked and I'm just bobbing happily on the sea. And I didn't freak out until she grabbed, this is all, of course, according to Mum's telling. I don't remember it, but I did in some way, on a cellular level. Yeah, that I didn't freak out until she began to freak out. So, yeah, a very real fear. The ocean is dangerous. I had an experience once years ago in Thailand, and I was with my first husband and my son, and we'd gone on a holiday. My son was 7, and we were catching one of those kind of Thai fishermen boats from one island to another or something like that along a coast. I can't remember the exact details. But anyway, off we went, and then the weather started to change. It was just like a kind of canoe. It was motorized, and the driver, I guess I'll call him, was first of all just kind of looking pretty relaxed, and then the waves started getting bigger and bigger, and I could see him kind of tensing up. And he's looking back, at first he's sort of looking back and smiling and reassuring us. And and it was just the three of us on this little boat. And then the waves were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he stopped looking back and smiling and was very grim and focused. And I knew we were in danger. I really did. I knew we were in danger. And I appealed to Poseidon. I had my hand around my son's shoulders, clasping him tight to me. And again, thinking, what's my plan if we capsize? Where would I swim to? How's this going to work, And I appealed to Poseidon, please, 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 get us out of this safely. And it really was dangerous. It really, really was. And our fisherman guide driver, he knew that too. The weather had changed. This storm had come in. We got to shore safely, and I had made promises to Poseidon that I would make an offering to him if he got us to shore safely, and he did. And the next day I went down and put lots of shiny things, coins and some jewelry in the sea, and just made an offering, because I really feel, look, whether or not he saved our life, I don't know. I don't know whether these gods are entities beyond my own heart and mind and the collective hearts and minds of thousands of people over thousands of years. To me, Poseidon felt and still feels very real. And that appeal to this energy, it reassured me. But I also knew that I had made a pact. And so I had to make an offering of something that felt real to me in true gratitude. There are stories mythologically of people making pacts with Poseidon and then not coming through with what they had offered. That does not end well. One of the myths I'm thinking of now is the myth of the Minotaur. And in that myth, King Minos in Crete, he promises to sacrifice a beautiful bull to Poseidon, and he then sees this beautiful bull and decides, no, he's going to keep it for himself and doesn't make the sacrifice that he'd promised. And then his wife, Pasiphae, falls in love with the bull, gets the great craftsman Daedalus to create this whole harness so she can have sex with the bull. And out of that is born the monster, the Minotaur, half man, half bull. So yeah, if you make promises to gods, make sure you follow through with those promises. So yes, I definitely did. So yeah, on that boat, I felt the danger, the genuine risk of capsizing. I was talking about shipwrecks last episode too, wasn't I? On the Odyssey, the shipwreck coast in Australia. The ocean is uncontrollable. And there is something about Pisces that reflects this energy. That is the epic nature of our emotional realm. That sometimes our emotions can come up and feel like they are drowning us, and other times it feels like they are offering us the deepest and most beautiful bliss. That ocean can be terror and it can be joy. It can be peace and it can be ecstasy. The Pisces energy reminds us that we are all connected. The psychologist Carl Jung, who was writing around the 30s, coined the term collective unconscious, and he recognized these shared energies across human cultures, these shared experiences that transcend different cultures and times, that are part of our human birthright. Like the instinct of a bird to migrate, humans have this collective energy that is uniquely human, and that we're all born with this, and that we can tap into certain aspects of this energy and it will express itself in certain ways, maybe as particular gods. He referred to these as archetypes. So, the archetype of the mother, of the trickster. And to me, this collective unconscious is like the ocean that reaches and touches every single shore, that somehow we are all connected with, that we can dissolve in this epic sea and somehow immerse ourselves in the enormity of the collective human experience. And this is really the work of the mystic, which is another quality of Pisces, of being able to transcend personal boundary and touch on this mythic, mystic energy that is part of all of us. So in that way, that Piscean energy becomes like a channel for expressing this collective unconscious. And so Pisces becomes the visionary, the mystic, the poet, the dreamer of dreams. And in our personal dream world, our nighttime dreams, we touch upon these great waters. Our logic loosens. We enter a world that is surreal, this combination of our personal experience, but also this mythic experience. It can be a realm of shadow and fears, but also a realm of great beauty. Poseidon is not only the god of the sea, but also the god of horses, known as Poseidon Hippios. In the Homeric hymn to Poseidon, he is the tamer of horses and the savior of ships. He's both. And this connection between Poseidon and horses is ancient. In some versions of his myth, he actually created the first horse. There was a contest between the goddess Athena and the god Poseidon for who would become the ruler of the city that we now know as Athens, which is a bit of a hint as to who won. So this contest took place up on the Acropolis, where the Parthenon is in Athens, between Poseidon and Athena. And the people of Athens were to choose which god they would honor as the patron deity of the city. And each god made an offering to the people. Athena offered the olive tree, and Poseidon, he struck his trident, that three-pronged big fork thing, which is a symbol of fishermen, the trident. He could strike that on the ground and a spring would emerge. And so one of the versions of this competition has him striking the ground, and out of that comes a salt water spring. But in other versions, he strikes the ground and out of it comes the first horse. Well, the people chose the olive, which I can understand. I love olives so much. I'm looking forward to actually doing an episode on Athena a little further down the track. Such a fascinating goddess. And yes, the olive, wow, what a gift. Anyway, back to Poseidon and his horses. So yeah, this competition reflects that ancient connection with horses. And there's a connection between the sea and horses. Poseidon is said to ride in a beautiful chariot pulled by horses in the sea. The sea actually makes way for him, splits and makes way. But we also see those beautiful manes of the sea's horses in the ocean spray, the waves' white horses. And the sea, the ocean, and horses both embody this power and beauty and freedom, instinct and movement and unpredictability too. There's an interesting myth that involves Poseidon and the goddess Demeter, who is Persephone's mother, Demeter, the great goddess of the grain. And in this version of the myth, it comes out of Arcadia, the forested area on the Peloponnese in Greece. So there's a sense of wildness to this area. It's where Pan was said to come from. When Demeter was searching for Persephone, so she's full of grief and fear, she's searching for her lost daughter. Poseidon begins to pursue her, and Demeter does her best to escape from his advances, and she transforms herself into a mare and hides in a herd of horses. But Poseidon discovers her, transforms into a stallion. You can imagine the rest of it. And out of that union is born a goddess called Thespina. And Thespina is a really interesting goddess. So she's kind of like another version of Persephone, that is specific to this region of Arcadia. And Despina, in the same way that Kori, Persephone's name or title before she became queen of the underworld, Kori means maiden or daughter. Despina is a title, not a name. That means mistress. And her cult was cloaked in secrecy. But like the Eleusinian mysteries of Persephone and Demeter, there appears to have been a mystery cult that was associated with death and rebirth in the same way that Persephone's was, the Eleusinian mysteries. When I was researching my Persephone album, I discovered this myth of Despina, the daughter of Demeter, and I really wanted to find out more. And it's not the easiest myth to find out a lot about. There's not all that much written. So in my research, I discovered that there were the ruins of an ancient temple for her on the Peloponnese. I think this was my second year of going to Greece, and I just started to learn Greek. I could decipher and sound out the alphabet, and I learned about this temple in a place called Lycosura, and it was really remote. So I'm there in my little hire car, and the roads, as I'm trying to find my way there, are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and kind of just becoming like goat tracks practically. And all the signs, there were no longer any signs in English, and I was pretty confused as to where to go. And then I saw a sign that said Lycosura using the Greek alphabet, and I was so proud of myself that I could navigate and decipher that. So I went up this little road, and yes, lo and behold, there was this temple. And it had kind of cyclone fencing all around it. And I went up to the little ticket office thing, and there was no one there, not one person, no one at all. And, it had a sign kind of saying, if you want to see this, you have to contact the Department of blah, 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 whatever. Well, I had traveled a long way and gone to a lot of trouble to be there. And I thought, well, I'm not going to be so easily deterred. It's a pretty big temple complex, and I was the only person around. So I walked around the perimeter until I found a way in, and there was a gap under the fence. And so I squeezed underneath, and I spent the whole day in this temple by myself. And I remember it must have been autumn. There were beautiful purple crocus flowers blooming. I lay amongst them and just immersed myself, meditating and just doing my own simple ritual. Nothing, of course, that could harm the site. And I know that was illegal, but I had to be in there. I was compelled, and I'm so glad that I did that. It was amazing, and I really felt this deeply potent, ancient energy and this wild energy, this wild horse energy, And then just to finish this story that's not really related to Poseidon or anything like that at all, but anyway. And a couple of days later, I was back in Athens, and I had heard about a temple, which I've spoken of actually in a previous episode, a temple to Artemis that's not too far away from Athens airport, Vravrona it's called. So I'd read about this temple, and I now realize it's not nearly as remote as it felt at the time. So I drove around, and I could see the temple but couldn't find an entrance. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. I know what to do here. So I kind of hitched up my skirts and was about to climb over the fence. And then I saw a little sign that said, main entrance, round the corner. And then I get there, and it's a whole proper museum and tourists and everything. So not quite the same situation. So I'm glad I didn't try to climb that fence and end up arrested. But anyway, it was definitely the right thing to do for wild, untamable Despina, the mistress, born of Demeter in the form of a mare, the wild, untamable horse. Like his Roman counterpart, Neptune, Poseidon is not only the god of the waters of the ocean, but also the god of springs and rivers and fresh water. As I mentioned, he brings forth springs by striking the earth with his trident. And remember, he's a god of earthquakes as well, earth splitting open. In the ancient version of the myth of Medusa, which comes to us from Hesiod, Medusa is a gorgon, one of three gorgons who are monsters of sorts and have living snakes as hair and kind of tusk-like teeth. And in this ancient version of the story, Poseidon and Medusa get together. And when Medusa is killed by Perseus with the help of the goddess Athena, when her head is severed, out comes the winged horse, Pegasus. So that winged horse is a child of Poseidon. And at one point, Pegasus strikes the ground with his hoof, and out of that comes a famous spring called the Hippocrene. And so then the horse and the spring and the earth become these recurring symbols of this life force, this untamable life force emerging from the earth, which Poseidon is connected to. He's this god of untamed power in motion. The sea and the tides, earthquakes and horses, springs bursting forth from the earth. There's this energy of change, this mutable water, this water of change that is alive and dynamic and instinctive and impossible to fully control. In honor of this Pisces Full Moon episode, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach to the end of this podcast. And rather than pulling a tarot card, we're going to do a longer meditation to really connect with those oceanic energies of this full moon. And I'm going to share with you the meditation that I recorded for my Patreon community. I record a full moon meditation every month for certain tiers on my Patreon page as my way of saying thanks for their generosity. So yeah, every month I offer a similar meditation, but this month I want to share it with everyone. And I'm sure my very generous patrons will be absolutely fine with that. So get yourself comfy. The meditation will be about 15 minutes long. So if you wish, you might like to lie down or find a comfy position and gift yourself this little window of time to connect with our beautiful Lady Moon and with your deep, wild, wise self. Okay, here we go. Hello, dear patrons, and blessings for the Pisces full moon. Let's get ourselves settled and comfortable, taking your awareness to your breath, settling into the here and now. Whether you're lying or sitting, feeling the weight of your body drawn down by the gravity of Mother Earth, feeling fully supported. You might like to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. And as you witness the rise and fall of your breath, you might notice your breath gently slowing down, becoming deeper as you let go of the thoughts of your day and bring yourself into the present moment. In your mind's eye, imagine yourself standing barefoot on a quiet ocean shore under the light of the full moon. if it feels comfortable, you might like to imagine yourself naked on this shore, or lightly clothed, if that appeals to you. Just you and the ocean and the moon, feeling safe and strong. Cool sand beneath your bare feet, and a gentle breeze against your skin. The smell of the salt air, and you tune in to the steady rhythm of the waves, simply standing and observing this ocean, looking out onto its wide horizon, the moon above, the earth beneath you, and the ocean stretched out before you. Silver moonlight creating a path across the water, beckoning you to enter. And as you feel the water gently lap at your feet now, you become aware of the water within your body. Your blood flowing, the moisture within your mouth, the water of tears, water held within every cell. And you remember that you are not separate from water. Water is part of you. You feel compelled to walk deeper into this ocean, knowing that this experience is safe. Walking slowly into the water, feeling those waves lapping around your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs, your waist, as you move deeper into the waves. Feel the cool water perfect against your skin. The ocean is calm and welcoming. There is nothing to fear here. You are part of this ocean, and you allow yourself to lean backwards and float on this ocean surface, allowing the water to hold you up effortlessly, fully supported by this salt water. And as you float easily and effortlessly, you gaze upward at the Pisces full moon, feeling its light upon your skin and shimmering upon the water that surrounds you as you are rocked gently by each small wave. Become aware of the immense power of this ocean that you are part of. Maybe you feel the presence of Poseidon here, this energy of vast depths, this energy that is ancient and alive, this living spirit, this power of the ocean itself, vast, mysterious, and feel yourself held within this great mystery. Notice the boundary between your skin and the water. Imagine that boundary becoming softer, more fluid, as the waves rock you. You hardly know where you end and ocean begins, where ocean ends and you begin. You are one with this energy, and you feel your sense of self expanding, becoming ocean, dissolving into this epic power, still aware of yourself, but also that you are wave and you are tide. You are the moonlight dancing on the surface of this water. You are the water itself. And as your consciousness expands, you feel the energy of every part of this ocean. Coral reefs full of colorful life, great open expanses, depths unknown, silent trenches, waters moving beneath ice, tropical seas beneath stars, one vast body of water encircling the planet, kissing every shore, every continent, every island touched by the same water. Remote beaches, great cities, cliffs and harbors, estuaries. There are no borders. There are no nations. There is no ownership, only movement and flow, connection. The rivers of the earth pouring themselves into you, rain returning to you, waters rising and falling through endless cycles. You are one with everything. All the living beings who carry water within them. You are connected to all. And allow yourself now to gradually draw your awareness back from these distant shores and become human again, floating on this ocean, underneath this full moon. This full moon that, like the ocean, unites the whole planet. This one sacred satellite that connects us all, full all over the earth, no matter where you are on earth. When night falls, the full moon is there to greet you. Kissed by this moonlight, you allow whatever feelings are within you to rise to surface. Feel them moving through you like a wave, allowing for those depths, allowing for periods of calm and maybe periods of storm, knowing that these are part of you, a part of this great ocean that you are at one with. And as you float on the ocean's surface, you feel the waves gently sending you back to shore. Do you realize that the water is shallow enough for you to once again stand in, feeling the sand beneath your feet, and you make your way to the shore, the water becoming more and more shallow, lapping at your waist, and then your thighs, then your knees, and calves and ankles, until you step onto the wet sand and feel that solid earth beneath your feet, the wind against your skin, the full moon above you. And you turn back and look at the ocean, offering your gratitude to this epic force that unites all of Earth. If you feel called to, you may like to offer your gratitude to Poseidon, the living spirit of these waters. And now begin to bring yourself back to your body, where you are, right here and right now, taking your awareness to that blood flowing through your veins, that moisture within your mouth, knowing that this connection with the vast oceans of Earth is always within you, that you can change and flow with this mutable energy. Begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Well, my dear podcast friends, thank you for tuning in to my special Patreon meditation. Yes, as I mentioned, I do a similar meditation every month aligned with the sign that the full moon is in. So if you're interested in checking that out, head over to my Patreon page, patreon.com/Wendy Rule. And yes, you can find out more about that. And I will be pulling a tarot card on Monday as part of my regular weekly Magic Monday videos for my Patreon. So if you missed the tarot this episode, head over and jump on board, become part of my Patreon community. It would be a great help to me. And also it would be lovely to share that realm with you. I will be back in a couple of weeks with the next episode, where we will dive deeply into the energy of Virgo season and connect with the beautiful god Hestia as our guide to that sacred, deep Virgo energy, mutable earth, and the power of ritual. I'll see you back here then. Oh, and don't forget, if you're in Australia, check out the dates on my website for my shows and workshops in Melbourne and surrounds, in Tasmania, in Adelaide, in Perth, and in Cairns. I hope I get to see some of you then. Okay? I look forward to welcoming you back here in a couple of weeks. Until then, blessed be and happy full moon.